So you've watched my tutorials on how to draw emotes, but there's something about them that just doesn't seem quite right and you don't know what it is. Well, you are in the right spot because I have the tutorial for you. In this tutorial, I will show you guys how to improve your emotes based on the emotes that you are already drawing and how to elevate them to the next level and make them look more beautiful, more professional, make them pop off the screen and just give them that little extra touch that you are missing. First of all, for those that don't know me, welcome on in. My name is Shay and I have drawn thousands of emotes for streamers all over Twitch, and I've also been commissioned by Twitch themselves to draw their global emotes, which was a highlight in my career. So I think that I have a tiny bit of experience under my belt, and I have already given you guys a tutorial on how to draw emotes from start to finish, and you can watch that tutorial here. It will pop up on the screen. So familiarize yourself with the tools that you already have. Make sure that you understand how to draw emotes because, like I said, this is going to be an advanced tutorial. So you're wondering, what exactly is it that makes a good emote? It's legibility. We are working with the tiniest little square pixel, and at the maximum size it's 112 pixels, but usually in chat it shows up at 28 or 36. And you've got the smallest square to work with, and you have to convey a unique set of emotions so that people actually want to use them. And how do you do that? Through color blocking, contrast, line weight, and use of negative space. Okay, so let's rewind that a little bit. What exactly did I just say? So what exactly is color blocking and contrast? It's probably the most important aspect of drawing an emote. When you're working really small, contrast is going to be your best friend. So I'm going to show you guys an emote here, and I'm going to show you an emote here. And you can already tell based on the difference that one is very muted and has a lot of the same colors going on, and the other one has very striking colors. And now we're going to shrink them. Which one is more legible when it's really tiny? The biggest mistake that people make when drawing emotes is that they look at the large canvas that's on their drawing tablet, and then they don't have a little tiny window or some sort of program that minimizes it so that you can see it in real time while you're drawing how it's going to look like small. Another important aspect is the use of line weight. So you might be asking, what exactly is line weight? Well, I have a tutorial that you guys can watch. It'll pop up over here. Essentially, line weight means thickness of the line. When you're drawing an emote, one of the common mistakes I see a lot of people doing is going too small with their line work so that when it's shrunken down, it's very hard to actually separate the emote from the background or the other elements on the emote. For example, let's say it's holding a heart. And the other thing I notice is the lack of line weight variety. When you're drawing an emote, you do want to have some variety in the line work. It just makes the emote feel more alive. What I like to do is I like to amplify and strengthen and increase the contrast of the lines where I want the viewer to be looking. For this emote, I ended up increasing the line work on the outside of the emote just to increase the contrast over a white background, because we do have to keep in mind Twitch light and dark mode. As well, I also increased the line work around the elements that I wanted the viewer to look at. This uses the previous example that we were talking about when it comes to increasing the contrast. And then I also mentioned negative space. What's negative space? Negative space is the space that's not the subject, so the background. When we're working with emotes, we have a very small space to work with, and it's a square. This makes it really hard for certain types of characters to show up properly, and we're going to get some cropping and we're going to get some awkward placements, and we got to be able to work with that because every single pixel matters when it comes to emotes. So with those key elements in mind, I have 8 steps that you guys can follow in order to improve your emotes, and I'm going to be doing a redraw of a emote that was submitted by one of our amazing community members, and I'll be taking this emote and turning it into this, and you guys get to watch along. But before we get started, if you guys do want the full draw along style where you can watch all the brushes that I've selected, see all the layer modes, see everything step by step in real time, definitely consider checking out the Patreon. It'll be linked here down below. I run polls all the time on what kind of tutorials you guys want to learn next, so definitely check it out. The extra support is so appreciated. And without further ado, let's actually get drawing. Let's go. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is change the background color. Change it to gray. It's a lot easier to see and it's easier on your eyes versus drawing on a white background. Trust me, you'll thank me later. We're going to go over here and we're going to open up our reference window, and that way we're going to be able to see our emote really small. The cow starts with a round sort of face, and we're going to get our grid lines or our guidelines inputted so that we know exactly how we're going to shape this cow. And then I'm gonna wanna have the phone really big. That's another thing I noticed about that emote was the hoofs and the phone, they were okay. They just needed to be a little bit bigger so that we can kinda get a feel for what exactly we were looking at there. This big cow face. And then we're gonna wanna have the big eyes. So I'm just gonna draw them in really crazy. It's gonna look silly, but that's just kind of how like the emotes always start off. And I can already see right now something's forming here. But one thing I'm noticing is there's a lot of negative space here. And that's another thing that we talked about in the intro, negative space. You want to make sure you use all the space that's available to you in the emote because we don't have a lot of room to work with. We only have 112 pixels at the maximum size. So it's really small. And if you're leaving all this valuable real estate here, then you're just doing yourself a disservice. So what we could do is we could always just move the phone over a little, or the phone. We can move the emote over just a little bit more, and then we can include a bit more detail over here. So I'm mostly happy with the base, the sketch. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to look up some expression references. And one of my favorite things to look at is chibis, animes, that kind of stuff. Spy X Family is one of my favorite animes to actually reference for those types of faces because Anya Forger is one of the craziest characters. She is always so expressive with the way she looks. So I'm gonna go on Google right now and I'm gonna just type in like maybe surprised chibi anime face. Okay, so now that the sketch is done, we are going to go with our next step, which is our line work. And I'm going to take my inking pen, which you can actually find on my Patreon. And we're going to set it to 10, and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start adding our line work. Step 6, which is picking the right colors. Contrast is definitely key. You want to make sure that the emote doesn't look like it's all kind of one color. This one, the pink hair with the pink body and the pink snout, is just, there's too much pink going on. So what we can do is we can change the colors slightly, or if this is actually the color scheme of the character that you're drawing, because sometimes, you know, we have people that commission us and they have OCs and that's just the color palette that we have to work with. Then we want to add contrast by shading. So I'm going to actually try to make this cow look good just the way it is. I'm going to try and keep the same colors, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add shading in order to make it pop more. So we're going to color pick. So I've got this cow. I'm just going to hold down with my finger in order to color pick. And I'm going to set my line work to reference. I'm going to make a new layer underneath, and I'm going to go ahead and drop that color in. And we're going to increase the threshold. That way we're getting all the pixels filled in. I'm going to separate the body. That way it makes it easier for me to shade because I'm only selecting the head and then I'm only selecting the body. It's nice to separate all your layers. Now we're going to go for the hair layer. It doesn't matter what order you put them in. I just kind of changed it just for my own sanity. I'm going to go actually a little bit brighter. I think it'll look really good. Another thing that you got to keep in mind when you are shading is it gives the perception that everything gets darker. For example, when we color let's say you had a commission for a black cat, you're not going to choose black. You never should color with black for emotes. Like black is completely off limits. Okay. Just don't ever do it. You're going to take a shade of blue, a super dark, like here, like a bluish, grayish, I don't even know what color this is, but you're going to want to go within this color area. And then once you actually add shadow to it, the shadow starts to make it look like that color is in fact black. And it's just an illusion that our brains do. So don't worry about picking the colors a bit lighter than what you want them to look like when they're done. So for example, I didn't choose this muted rose color because I can get that effect by doing shading. So I'm going to go actually just a tad lighter, and that's how I chose that. I think that these horns are like a purpley brown. So I like the color actually. I think they're really cute. I might just lighten them up a tiny bit. Again, always go a little bit lighter. And the thing is, like, it might look a bit funny on the big emote, but when you shrink it down, that's when it has to look good. Like, you cannot worry about anything else. It has to be about how it looks on that little preview window. Now that that's finished, we're gonna go into our shadows. And so we're gonna grab like a purpley or a pinky. It's whatever you want to choose. It's really dependent on what you like. And I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna start adding my shadows. So we're using our shadows and our highlights to make it pop off the screen, right? And so we're always looking at the little tiny reference and we're trying to see like, okay, well, where does it need a bit more? And so for me, I'm noticing it needs a little bit more in the middle of the tuft. So I'm gonna grab one of my brushes here. This one I love using here. And this one as well, you can find on my Patreon. One of my custom hairbrushes. And I love using this one to sort of draw in like the wispiness of the hair. And I did it again. I drew on the wrong layer, but you know what? It looks really good, so I'm just going to keep it. You don't have to draw on a multiply layer. That's not something that is absolutely required for you to do. You are more than welcome to just paint on all one layer. In fact, I do that with my painterly style. You can see one of the rendering videos. It's going to pop up on the top of the screen where I do more of a painterly style, and I actually use all one layer because I find it's easier to blend the colors. For emotes, I do tend to separate and do multiply and add layers. However, if it happens by accident and it looks good, listen, I am not too worried, and you shouldn't be either. So the main purpose for highlights, again, not only making it pop off the screen, but also one of the main reasons I like to highlight is to make it pop off a dark background. So let's say this is, I think, Twitch dark. I cannot see this other hoof. By adding a new layer to that hoof and making it add, and then let's say we're gonna have a blue light, right, coming off of this phone. So there's gonna be a lot of blue reflected light. So we're going to just add a little something here. And then it's not that easy to tell, but you can kind of see it over here, and it has popped off the screen a little bit. It's hard to tell, but it gives an overall effect. So now we're gonna go to the rest of the emote, and we're gonna start adding this blue on a new add layer, and we're gonna do it everywhere. And you have to have, again, I'm just using the medium brush. I'm not using anything special, but you have to have the lightest touch. Like, you cannot go crazy with this or it'll look bad. All right, so for our final step, what I want to do is add more line weight where it needs to pop. And so now I'm at that step. And so I personally, and this is all up to you, like your style, but I personally like to add a thicker outline to the emote, and it helps it for me pop off of the light mode. And then I will also use a thicker line work when I'm trying to accent certain parts of the emote as well. So like, I want to accent these hooves that are holding on to the phone, then I can make those lines a bit thicker. And so the whole time I'm doing this, guys, I'm looking at my little reference window and I'm making sure everything looks good, because you can go a little too hard with this and it can look really bad. So just try to keep that in mind. And so you can see how just adding that extra black line to the phone made such a difference to what I was doing. And I will also, again, this is just preference, but I will also alpha lock this and I will color in the inner line work. I find that that makes the emote look a little bit less muddy and a little bit less chaotic. So the viewer can focus more on where I'm drawing their eye with contrast. Again, at the end of the day, this entire tutorial is about improving your emotes. And a part of that is making sure that you have the right contrast everywhere. That's like the biggest name of the game when it comes to making good emotes, is it's contrast. And a lot of people don't think about that. Yes, it's obviously your technical skill, like how you drew the emote and how it looks, but the single biggest thing really is contrast, and line weight and colors and shadows all kind of add to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the website applic.dev, and that's where I'm going to test out my emotes and see how they look. So I ended up actually uploading a third emote. I wasn't so sold on the blue lines on the snout. Again, the beauty of drawing on different layers, you can test it out, see if you like it, if it's something that you think looks good when it's really, really small. I think on the emote canvas, like the larger canvas while I was drawing, I think I did like it better. But now that it's shrunk down, I think I prefer option number 3, which is the one that has the blue light but then doesn't have the blue on the snout. I think it was taking a little bit away from everything. But let me know what you guys think. Did we improve the emote? I think we did. I think that we got a really bigger and bolder expression, and I think that we got a bigger phone going on. And I mean, it was a hard emote to work with because it was already pretty good. So all I did was just include some of the tips and tricks that we were talking about in this video to just kind of make it pop a little bit more. And now you can see it in the white mode, how it looks, and we'll shrink it down a little bit. But yeah, originally the emote was really good. We just gave it that extra little polish, which is what this video tutorial was all about. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, a like, subscribe. And if you guys want to watch the full draw along tutorial, definitely consider checking out my Patreon. That is where I upload full-length tutorials as well as draw with me videos, exclusive art. I answer all your questions, and you can find my brush set and more. I will link it down below. But with that, guys, I will see you all in the next tutorial. And if you have any suggestions, please make sure to drop it down in the comments section. Maybe I will cover that topic. I'll see you guys all again in the next one. Until then, bye everyone.